ladies and gentlemen, is that time again for me to go through UFC action and tell you what I thought about the card. And I said coming into this card, this UFC Oklahoma City card, that it wasn't very good. And I largely stand by that. Don't get me wrong, the action was fine. DDP versus Usman was a perfectly acceptable fight. Christian Leroy Duncan, Jared Cannonier was frustrating, but in some ways was fun time. Chase Hooper got a quick win. Fatima Kline was dominant. Tommy McMillen versus Alberto Montes was a phenomenal fight. From an action standpoint, technically terrible, but from an action standpoint, very, very good. Delgado versus Bashi was pretty good as well. Lebosnier versus Ko was kind of like McMillen Montes, like a really good, fun action fight, but like the technique, not very good. And then moving on down, you have the 205 fight. That kind of stunk. Ezra Elliott versus Damian Anderson. That kind of stunk. Eldon Correa versus Stuart Nicole. In some ways stunk. It was fun enough, etc. But like, I understand that Correa did not put up a great performance here. RJ Harris knocked out Alvin Hines and Deone Barbosa with a submission victory. So like, action-wise, pretty good. It's just that very few of these fights have any kind of like ongoing impact on the product. And again, the vibes were kind of the same. Like, again, I said this in my preview. Doing old wash man versus other guy in the co-main and the main is not a fantastic idea. And both of the fights had that vibe. Don't get me wrong, I wanna give DDP some praise. And let's just dive into that fight right now. DDP fought pretty well, all things considered. There were some amendments where he didn't give up his hips. There were some denial of entries on takedowns. There was better defensive wrestling ideas, sharper footwork, and more of a back foot game than he had previously shown really at all. So I want to give him his flowers. He fought really well for 5 rounds and 4 rounds really well, and then in the three rounds exceptionally well. And then the 4th round was competitive, and the 5th round was competitive. He did a good job. He did a very, very solid job. And I scored the fight 4-1 in his favor. Did I give the 5th to Usman? Yeah, I gave the 5th to Usman. So I gave rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4 to DDP. And rounds 1, 2, and 3 absolutely have to go to him. Round 4 has a little bit more interest to it. Strictly speaking, the number of strikes landed were very close, but DDP rocked Usman with a head kick. I think that pretty much has to give him the round. You know, the damage was there, and to be clear, he did outland him 24-21. So it's not like Usman outworked him. It's just that it was a close round. Otherwise, that you could, if you wanted to be generous to Kamaru Usman, give him that round. Usman was very unhappy with the 50-45 from Sal D'Amato. I think it's fine. Again, I scored the 5th round for Usman, but realistically speaking, that was a close round. It's just like DDP was kind of fading, and there was like a bit of a flurry at the end from Usman that gave him the round, in my opinion. And there were some good stuff. But like, keep in mind, in the 5th round, Usman got wobbled with a head kick and got swarmed by DDP in a moment as well. Like it was kind of like just a better version of the 4th round. He still got hurt, and I have no problem with D'Amato scoring it that way. Now it's Sal D'Amato, and I'd love to disagree with the Sal D'Amato card, but that was the case here. Now, what was the negative here? It was the fact that this loss was about Usman just not having it. I don't want to say any more, because who knows, but not having it on this night. There wasn't a lot of explosiveness behind his takedown attempts. There was, unfortunately, his pre-fight talk where I thought it was misdirection of him saying, I intend to use wrestling as a secondary thing. Turned out to, unfortunately, be just straight up the truth. And he really came out there actually being really keen to strike with DDP and not emphasize the wrestling, not go hard with the wrestling, not be prepared. And maybe it's just because he knows his knees can't do it, Maybe he realizes that the Joaquin Buckley fight was kind of unique because Buckley is the definition of physical wrestling defense only. He is not technical in any way, shape, or form on the TDD, and that he thought he could do it then, but that's not applicable to other fights. Maybe that's all this is. This is Usman knowing but not wanting to give up on it, not wanting to like realize that this is probably the end of the road for him if that is the case, and going out there and not even looking particularly good as a boxer. Like he just doesn't look good in this fight. And part of that is DDP having some good ideas, but part of that is the fact that, well, he's 39 years old and this is probably the end of the road. Am I regretful for my pick? Not really. Not really. Because I caveated that, like, obviously if Usman does not have it in him to wrestle aggressively and impactfully and really bring the fight to DDP on a repetitive basis, mixing the striking with the wrestling, he is going to lose, and that is what happened. So, yeah, I don't know. I couldn't bring myself to actually put money on a 39-year-old Kamaru Usman. So, there is that. Jared Cannonier versus Christian Leroy Duncan was kind of the same thing. Like, I don't want to hate on CLD too much. Well, I do, but we'll get the positives out of the way, before we get into that. CLD fought reasonably well. I don't have a lot of positivity for him because he got up when he was taken down a couple of times. That was good. He broke the clinch in some violent fashions. That was also good. And obviously he won the range striking game that we expected him to win. And otherwise, this was just a fight about Jared Cannonier not having it anymore. Like similar to Kamaru Usman. He was able to get in on takedowns and get them, but he couldn't hold them down. He wasn't able to really do anything when he was standing at range. And really the thing that should strike CLD about this fight, really should get this through to him, is that he just does too much dumb stuff. And I say this, there's a great sequence. I think it's in the second round. Come on, notes. Where is it? Yes. Yeah. It's in the second round where he throws a spinning elbow and misses. Comes up nothing with the flashy stuff. And then like maybe 10 seconds later, laces Cannonier with a right straight and clearly hurts him. And it's like, if that would be just something you would do, pare it down, get to the basics, get to the fundamentals, less spinny stuff. Not no spinny stuff, but less spinny stuff, less high impact, high risk stuff, and more, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to throw a jab, and I'm going to add a right hand, and I'm going to just hurt you because I'm fast, powerful, precise. All the things you could be. Like that's the frustration with CLD. If he would just be more basic, he would be a better fighter. He would be a fantastic fighter. He has the athletic ability to do that. And embrace the clinch a lot less, because there were moments where, like, not only would he get clinched by Cannonier, that'll happen. I get that, I understand. But he would stay in the clinch. He would clinch with Cannonier. He would willingly accept the clinch, which was not where he was necessarily like losing the fight or anything like that. But the only place Cannonier could beat him was in the clinch. Cannonier had nothing for him at long range. He had nothing for him at mid range. So get out of the position where you are 50-50, we'll put it that way. And, do your thing. I don't have anything really to say about Chase Hooper, Mitch Ramirez, rear naked choke. Got the job done, did the thing. Got the grappling going very, very early. Ramirez is bad. That's it. If you weren't aware that Mitch Ramirez was not a UFC level fighter, you learned something. If you were aware of that, you learned nothing. So Hooper gets a win. Is this like, oh, he solved some stuff? No, he beat a guy that just shouldn't be in the UFC. That's kind of really it. I did see someone on my timeline going, man, the matchmakers hate Mitch Ramirez, and they just posted his record where he's fought Carlos Prates, Thiago Moises, Mike Davis, and Chase Hooper. And it's like, and he's lost them all. And the answer is no. He Who is he going to beat? Like, Moises is, like, washed up. Mike Davis and Chase Hooper are not serious lightweights. The only killer of that bunch is actually Prates. And he's been able to beat none of them. Fatima Kline beat up Tabitha Ricci, won all 3 rounds against her. It was essentially a sign of, like, Ricci just being too small, for one thing. And also Kline being quite good. Because, again, I have to emphasize this. Jillian Robertson could not do this to Tabitha Ricci, and now she's fighting for a title. Lupi Godinez could not do this, and she's a reasonably solid fighter. Amanda Hibosh could not do this. This was a more dominant display than Verna Jandiroba had, for example, who fought for a title. So it's definitely a good sign for Fatima Kline, but like at the same time, it's just this is kind of what should happen to Ricci, and I emphasize a lot because the UFC really at times is very interested in having Tabitha Ricci. They bring her to fights, they show her in the crowd. She's an attractive lady. She's got the boxer boyfriend and stuff. Her and Michelle Waterson are the two that really stand out on this. I don't know why the UFC didn't do an atomweight division. It feels like that division could have actually been something. It may yet be, but it doesn't seem like they're interested in it. Tommy McMillen versus Alberto Montez. I don't have a lot to say about this fight because, well, let me try and make this one like breakdownable and not just Tommy McMillen went out there and he put a hell of a pace on a guy and stopped him in the 3rd round with a standing TKO. What good things can I say about McMillen? He's big, he's got cardio, he's aggressive. He is about that life. He is scrappy. But there's definitely a bit of a Clay Guida-esque element to him because all of that offense, he didn't fight like Clay Guida, but all of the offense, all of the pace comes with no defense. And if Alberto Montez had been more willing to stand in and like just hit him, he probably would have had a lot more success. Probably would have still lost, but probably would have had more success. And at some point, somebody's going to melt Tommy McMillen. Okay, actually, I will say, good on McMillen for any time there was a chance for this fight to get on the ground and get front handlocky and grappling oriented. He passed it up. I don't know if it was him paying respect or him wanting to beat up Montez on the feet. He either understood or his pride prevented him from going into the aspect of the fight that Montez might have been able to catch him in. So that's good, I guess. He'll win fights in the UFC. He'll probably beat some good fighters because he's very overwhelming. But he will probably also lose to some not so good fighters. Again, the Clay Guida example really, I think, works here because Clay Guida is, a guy who went out there and he beat RDA a little bit before RDA really got going, sure, but beating RDA, overwhelming Tetsuya Kawajiri, Hatsuhioki, Anthony Pettis. He had a win over Anthony Pettis, but also lost in very not great ways to Kenny Florian and Roger Huerta and Dean Thomas. It was definitely one of those ones where do I believe you could potentially win against very high end people in this division? Yes. Do I think you can also lose to some people who are very mid? Also, yes. That's the Tommy McMillen experience right now. And maybe it'll get better, maybe it'll improve because there's something to work with there. But it definitely needs refinement and development, and I'm not entirely sure if his gym or him are really open to that. Again, the Montez booking was a bit weird because Montez is a guy that I think they're kind of trying to make it out like he's a good fighter right now to try to hype up Tommy McMillen, but I don't think that'll last. Jose Delgado versus Austin Bashi was less interesting than I was expecting it to, but also disappointing in a way because honestly, I don't think Delgado fought particularly well here. Don't get me wrong, he won very clearly. I think I gave him all 3 rounds if I do remember correctly. No, I gave Bashi the 3rd. So I scored it 29-28 for Delgado. And I guess there's not really a way to score that third round for Delgado. But at the same time, particularly in the third round, there was some like engaging in the wrestling that were just very, very dumb. There were some things like the round one was very good. Jose Delgado's first round was very, very good, but the second round was pretty meh, and then the third round was him making very dumb decisions. So I'm hoping that that's just, I don't know, an off night, because I want to see Jose Delgado do good things. But him and Alden Correa get the card for you won quite clearly, but I think I have more concerns coming out of your fight than I had coming in. But as for Ostabashi, there were some people talking about him going down to bantamweight as the only solution. Don't get me wrong, I think that like a 5'6" dude probably is going to end up at bantamweight. I think that probably is the best spot for him. But I think his problem is more to do with the fact that he's just very green. His striking is quite bad for the UFC level. It's very overhand dependent. It's very dependent on the opponent just kind of standing at mid-range with him and throwing hands and not utilizing any kind of lateral movement or any kind of real counter game, which again in the first round Delgado was able to utilize. Also hit him with a couple of knees. Like there's just a lot of work to be done, and I just don't know about the gym. Like he seems to be at a family gym, and that's a problem. Should you go back and rewatch this fight over and over? No, it's not that kind of good, but it's fine. It's just I think that there was a much better version of this fight in it. To a degree similar to the Correa fight again that we're going to talk about, but also similar to like Labozniani versus Ko, which we're going to talk about right now. This was a fight where I picked Ko to win, and I was very, very wrong. Ko, my thought on Ko winning was, okay, Labozniani is generally a guy who is used to utilizing his own grappling as a winning condition. And that means that he tends to not really be adverse to wrestling. And Ko's a very, very good takedown artist. And very quickly, this became very apparent that Labozniani actually had a significant advantage in the wrestling, and I don't know where that came from. They tie up. Labozniani ends up on top in the first round. Ko's able to get up. Again, Labozniani wasn't able to lock him down really particularly well, but every time they would grapple up, Ko would get taken down, end up on bottom, etc. Like it would not really at any point work for him. So maybe I really need to I need to recalibrate something here. Is the or possibly both these things. Is this that Labozniani is like actually that dude when it comes to the physical wrestling aspect, and I just didn't give him that credit before? Or is it that Ko is kind of not as strong as I thought? Because man, O'Bonnell Elliott made it sound like he was real strong, and Phil Rowe in the cage got bullied by him, and I don't know. It kind of came out of nowhere that Labozniani is like that dude. I don't think it's necessarily obvious, to be clear, that like Labozniani actually won this fight. As odd as it is that I'm going to say some really, really nice things for him, but I gave Ko a round, and there's arguments for other rounds because Labozniani is really, really defensively poor. Like, it's a problem. Ko lit him up a fair bit. But Labozniani seemed to hit him harder, and again, and the wrestling advantage seemed to be the thing that swayed it. But like, it's not a great sign when you get outlanded by Ko in all 3 rounds on both significant and total strikes. It's not great, and it's not particularly amazing that you were held to under 20 significant strikes in 2 rounds by a guy who is not a defensive genius by any means, shape, or form. So, on one hand, a very good performance by Labozniani, but on the other hand, not amazing. It's a weird fight. Felipe Franco versus Levi Rodriguez. Levi Rodriguez getting stopped in the second round here. Levi was very unhappy with the stoppage, and I do think it was a bit early, but I don't think it was applicable because you were outlanded 27-0 in the round. You were in a very bad spot. You had shown no ability to work your way out of a bad spot, if we're being entirely honest. Is this a great performance? Does this like mean that Felipe Franco is going to be like a big thing at 205? I don't know. Again, Rodriguez on the Contender Series didn't seem to be a particularly good clinch wrestler, and he got stuck there with Freddie Vidal, who is not very good. And Franco just kind of was able to do more with that, and himself has been beaten by Freddie Vidal. So I'm like, it's not exactly amazing. I guess I'm moderately more interested in Franco's next fight, I suppose, because his fights have gone pretty well. Like he won this fight, and he did survive against Mario Pinto, even though I'm still fairly certain that said more about Pinto than it did about Franco. But maybe there's something here. Maybe this is the great dark horse pickup for this division. Who knows? He is willing to grapple, and most of the 205 division is grappling phobic. So this might work out. He's at least got something similar to like Jimmy Crute's skill set, and Jimmy Crute hung around for like a long time. So maybe there's something there. Ezra Elliott, Damian Anderson, I don't have much to say about a fight that had 44 total strikes landed over a 3-round period between the two fighters. Elliott won. He was bigger. He was a better wrestler. He was able to stay on top. And these were the reasons I put money on him, and I picked up a nice chunk of change off this fight. But I don't know. I'm not super excited to see Elliott fight again. I'm not saying cut him. I'm not saying get rid of him. I'm not saying don't book him. He won. Book him as such. But I'm not going to be super amped. Unless I'm super amped for his opponent. For his next fight. And for Anderson, get him down to 135 because he's too small here. I don't know how much of it was just a size thing, because Elliott also missed weight for this fight. But the flashy stuff that Anderson did on the regional scene was very much neutered here. And I think that is partially, at the very least, a level thing. Now, he's not that old. He's 29. Put him down to 135, where he has a little more speed, a little bit, or not speed, size. A little more size, strength, and power. Maybe he can get something done. The door's not closed, but the expectations are at the best down to a little bit of embers. It was not a very good fight. Alden Correa versus Stuart Nickel. This was a good fight for Nickel because he showed heart, gumption, the ability to go to a wrestling game. And it was a bad fight for Correa because, one, he got taken down 5 times by a guy who is neither a good wrestler nor a good athlete. But also he was rendered very low pace, low output by flyweight standards. Correa landed under 20 significant strikes in all 3 rounds and under 20 total strikes in the first round. When he went, it was good, and it was very clear that he was faster than Nickel. He was able to light him up. He was able to do things. He was able to, in my opinion, win all 3 rounds. And on, I think, 2 judges' scorecards, they gave him all 3 rounds, which is weird when I say it was kind of disappointing in that regard because there were points where he just kind of got off the gas. And this is concerning because he kind of did the same thing against Luis Garule at times, to a lesser degree. And some of that was to do with Nickel, because Garule is, if not hittable. But I don't know, they gave him a fight here to style and profile. And he didn't really do that, is I think what it comes down to. And that's a problem. Just thinking, just debating. What else I want to add to this? I don't know. There needs to be a little bit more urgency in Correa. I think that's what it comes down to. The speed is there. The physical tools are there. The technical boxing is there. The wrestling needs work. Please get on that. You're in Texas. That should be doable. But the fight itself is not super great. Alvin Hines just got detonated by RJ Harris, honestly. This is one of those fights where like the numbers aren't bad. It's like 17 to 16 or 11 in terms of strikes. But when Harris hit Alvin Hines, it was clearly a problem for him. And when Hines landed, it was not a problem for RJ Harris. I will say, I thought Hines fought a little bit weird. We saw him against Jonta Denise be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more on the gas, which is weird because Denise is like a legitimately scary guy. Harris, on paper, was not. And he treated him with a lot more caution. Turns out he was probably right too, though, because he got knocked out here and he didn't get knocked out by Denise. So, welcome to the heavyweight division, RJ Harris. You've got some interesting chokes, and you've apparently got some excellent power. Is the rest of your game good? Don't know. You're willing to use uppercuts though. That's cool. So we'll see how the next one goes. And then we had Deone Barbosa versus Anna Melisano. Melisano is just too small, and somebody who herself has been kind of like, again, grappling willing. I said that about someone else earlier today, right? Who was it? Damn it! There was another fighter I used that on, and now I can't remember whom. But yeah, Melisano just got kind of run over by a steamroller. Now, is Melisano interesting going forward? Maybe. I think she'll be a perfectly fine action fighter at 115. But at 125, she's not small. But her game is so based around being the bigger fighter that 125 is just not going to be a good idea in any way, shape, or form. So that was the card. We're off to hopefully bigger and better things, but to be honest, I don't know about that because we do not have great bookings coming up, and the people coming the fights being booked coming up are not great. We got this Ankalaev versus Gushkov card. Main event is not bad. Urseg versus Temerov is not bad. But like then it falls down. It really does. Also, can we please stop matching Rizvan Kuniev up against wrestlers, because he's fighting Terrell Fortune. He's probably going to be able to stop Fortune's takedowns because he's very good at stopping takedowns. He's a very good anti-wrestler. And it's probably going to suck. I am not looking forward to that one. Let me see here. Is there a sleeper I'm looking forward to? A fun fight lower down on the card. But maybe I can get a little excited about. It's not really anything here, is there? Mohamed Side's fighting Dustin Jacoby. Side, are you particularly good? I'm gonna have to watch footage. There's his best one is Luis Enrique da Silva, which just doesn't mean a lot. And then otherwise it's Valmer da Silva and Ali Falati. Otherwise it's very can heavy. A lot of knockouts, a couple of subs. Ironically, an amateur lost to Rizvan Kuniev. And then you have the Medic versus Rodriguez card, which is such a bad main event. Oh my lord. Now, that's a weird one, though, because honestly, the other fights on the card are like, there are other fights on the card that are more fitting of the main event spot. Blachowicz versus Nalo Sterling, of course, but also Marcin Tybura versus Alexander Rakic. Like, that feels like more of a main event spot than Medic versus Rodriguez. But it does. Oh god, Gilbert Urbina is back. Just kill me now. Just kill me now. Dushko Todorovic versus Robert Valentine. Oh no. The next two preview podcasts are not going to be a fun time. I'll leave it at that. Have a good day, everybody. Check the link tree down below for video gaming stuff, the social media stuff, and other places you can find this podcast and my MMA thoughts. I'm gonna cry.